it's a wrap. Only Murders in the Building, Season 4, Episode 10, My Best Friend's Wedding, officially ends this season tonight, and I'm kind of curious, are you happy with this finale, or are you like me, and you're kind of disappointed? Let's talk about it. Yes. So Only Murders Building in the season 4 finale hit, and for a lot of this season, I feel like it was returned to form in a lot of different ways. I think the comedic bits and the comedic energy between all three, Selena Gomez, Steve Martin, and Martin Short, worked incredibly well. I liked how they were working together through the whole season to really drive the actual mystery and what's going on. I felt last season we kind of lost that for a okay romance angle, but I could care less about the play. But did we end this season with all the promise we were given? I'm going to say no. Now, we do pick up with Mabel and Marshall in her apartment and get confirmation that Marshall is definitely the killer, and not only was he the killer who shot Chaz, we quickly find out that he was actually the killer that disposed of her body too, because as a stuntman, and I gotta say whoever's doing the stunt work for Marshall this episode did an incredible job. He could do things that people weren't expecting, like walking on the ledges of the Arconian to get around the building to get to Saz's body quick. Now, things I thought were interesting this episode and worked well. I love the Charles and Oliver interaction when Mabel's in trouble. I love the ledge scene where they go on the ledge together to try and save Mabel. And I like how the Westie Besties played a role in the episode altogether. I liked the Loretta and Oliver happy ending with their marriage and nothing really going wrong there. I know people kind of were predicting that maybe Loretta will be the person who ends up dying this episode. And then also Jan coming in and being the one to take out Marshall to save our trio, I think was a great wrap-up. And again, she didn't die this episode, so I thought those were all great wrap-ups. And I really do think Marshall's story with Saz and just Jane Lynch in this episode and the emotional impact that Saz had this episode was very well done. I loved that. And in a lot of ways, I think the season delivered in that, the finale at least, delivered in that way. Why is my thumbnail note disappointed? Why do I feel a little disappointed? For a few things. One, you tease that this killer and this whole thing goes all the way back to season 1, and you don't even address it anywhere. The Dudanoff apartment being used was a side thing. Says, oh, that was in the script that Saz saw, so that's how I knew how to use that apartment, and I knew what the passcode is. For this show to be so interesting and have that intricate detail writing throughout, I was sad that we didn't get that finished. And a couple other things. Where's Saz's phone? Who was saying, I'm watching you? How did, Marshall have access to all the apartments like that? They were very much hinting, and maybe they will hint more, that there is a big bad around the whole entire series of Only Murders in the Building. But I felt we dropped the ball on what we were building mid-season here. Yes, Marshall killed Saz and disposed of Saz, but who says he had Saz's phone? I would have loved if there was a comment there, and we're building on that more. And I would have been happy if, okay, we close this book on Marshall, but there's somebody bigger at hand that the crew has to worry about. And Marshall be like, I didn't take Saz's phone. I didn't realize she had a phone. Or Marshall, or at the end, they get a message and it's oh, this is from Saz's phone. Open-endedness. Or even just acknowledging the fact that, hey, it wasn't somebody from season 1, huh? Really upset that became a big plot point in the middle of the season, and then it ended up having no real effect at all. I don't like how Marshall knew about the Dudanoff apartment. I didn't like that tie-in overall. It felt very lazy. And then we get to who died. And obviously, whatever this disappearance is, or whatever this is, that was in the background of episode 9, and, the female partner of that person tried to recruiting, Charles and Mabel this episode. Clearly, that's going to be a central, storyline that ties into this next death of season 5. But Lester dying in this way, I mean, off the bat, the idea is going to be as she was trying to get, go see Charles, and maybe the killer thought if they killed the doorman that she wouldn't be able to know where Charles's apartment is. I don't know. But Lester is dead, and I know he was somebody's pick for being the big bad of the show. I just felt overall that this season was building up to something really cool. The connections was really cool, and we're going to build into a connection that maybe goes into season 5 and treats it maybe like it's a finale season, a series finale where, it makes sense where, Oliver can then go to New Zealand and spend his life with Loretta, and maybe Charles and Mabel, kind of do go their own way or go into the next portions of their life. I would have liked us to get a hint or for it to build up, be like, okay, Marshall isn't just the only bad person in this one. What else happened? And then somebody like maybe Lester dies, and you're like, oh, Lester must have known something. Maybe Lester knew. But we didn't get any hints of that at all. It felt very cookie cutter. It felt very straightforward. It felt very like we weren't connecting the dots to what we had in previous parts. And that's why I'm a little disappointed with this finale. I still love the acting as a whole. I had Marshall pegged from like episode 1 or 2 whenever we first got introduced to Marshall. Something just seemed off about him being a writer. I got the motives wrong. He wasn't a good writer. He wasn't trying to, put them into a murder mystery to see his work. No, he was a revenge tale on Saz and trying to keep himself protected. Which is perfectly fine too. I can't take full credit for getting Marshall right. But yeah, I just think we didn't get a nicely tied bow. It looked like they were starting to tie a beautiful present bow on what would be this amazing series, and even if we didn't get this big bad as a thing this season, it being hinted and it being kind of used to lunge into what I think would be an appropriate 5th and final season for this show, we didn't get that. And maybe with Lester being the one who was killed, we'll get more back to the roots of the show. No more, movies, no more Broadway show. We get back to the only murders and the tenants in the building. And I want to see it like season 1. And I personally still would like to see next season be the final season, because as much as I love this show, I do think it's kind of running its course. And they got to tidy it up, and I think tie it up on a bow. But tell me your thoughts. Again, were you as disappointed as maybe I was in the Only Murders, season 4 finale? Or were you actually somebody who really liked the way this was tied up, and you're okay with it not having this overarching theme? Tell me down in the comments below, and look out for my other movie, TV shows, and sport reviews here on the channel. No longer Josh Says Movies, just Josh Khan. I'll see you later somewhere else.